It doesn't quite fit exactly. I'm dirty.
Green on the outside, mushy on the inside.
Red oxygenate.
This is Adam Neely.
Hello.
And he has a YouTube channel that is... It's my favorite music-related YouTube channel. Yeah, the content on it it's all stuff where I always learn something from it, and I feel like you cover a lot of stuff that hasn't been covered or that I haven't seen. I mean, there's a lot of videos out there.
Yeah, actually, if you are interested, I can recommend you a couple channels. There's a channel called Samurai Guitarist. That's really good, and I like his stuff because he like goes into like a lot of like just more advanced like how to like think about being a musician and like dealing with like rejection and dealing with like feeling not good about yourself and like how to stay focused and just like a little bit more cerebral things than just like here's how you play a scale, which is great, and there's a million scale channels
like mine. I mean, for you it's been a huge year, like in terms of you went from, I'd say, being a person who has a fairly average amount of humans that know about you and that you have to deal with from day to day in your life.
An average amount of humans.
You know, with Facebook, I think all in all, we all are aware of maybe a couple hundred humans, and they're aware of us in a significant way. But now you have like 86,000 subscribers on YouTube, and anytime you put something up, it gets so many views that things you say that you maybe like thought of for just a few minutes become ripples that are heard by, you know, thousands and thousands of people, and you don't even get to meet these people or see their faces. You don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, that's
crazy. That's
the weird thing, and it's cool. It is cool, like having that sort of validation of a bunch of people like actually want to like listen to what you say rather than just like you preaching to like a bunch of other people and they'll be like, yeah, I'm sure, whatever. But it's also been interesting. It's also been interesting like having to watch my tongue because you know, I do have strong opinions about a lot of things in music, and when you have a platform, like you have to kind of like cultivate exactly how those opinions are coming across to other people. For example, and on a live stream I had like a couple nights ago, basically somebody asked like, who do you think is the most overrated bass player? And I gave an answer.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I gave an answer, and I'm kind of regretting that answer. Not necessarily because I fear any backlash of like from that person who I thought was overrated, but I think it's just like I'm now on a different level. Like professionally, I have to like think about what I say, which is interesting. But anyway,
and the other thing is that anyone who says anything ever has a really good chance of being wrong about it.
Yeah.
And so like if you're saying like hundreds of things in front of a camera and then thousands of people are hearing them, you're probably saying dozens of things that you later realize you didn't mean, or you said a way you didn't mean.
Exactly.
And then it's just kind of stuck. Are there any things this year that really stood out to you, like musically, that are exciting?
One of the things that I've been really getting into this year was NPR Tiny Desk concerts, and I don't really know why, but it's just basically, well, I should say this. I know why, but it's something that like I didn't really think that I'd be like really putting a lot of like energy into like watching these, but one of the reasons why I like it so much is because it's given a lot of different styles of music that definitely would not have been presented to me in any other way, because it's music that is not viral ready, if that makes any sense, and it's music that I wouldn't normally seek out, and we're normally in this almost a bubble now because like we like what we like, and it's hard to like expand outwards because of any number of different things. Spotify Discover sends you music that they know that you'll like, all this other stuff. But the point is I like the Tiny Desk concerts. Like, okay, so there's several ones that I actually really like. There's one called Songhoi Blues, which is a Malian blues band, and it's so awesome watching them because when you're listening to it and when you're watching them, you are sort of hearing the entire history of blues music and the entire history of like rock music in what they're doing, but filtered in a very different way than what you're like normally used to, because you're listening to them and he's singing in, I think, Tuareg or some like, it sounds like Arabic, but it's definitely not. It's some like like northern African language, and it sounds like the blues but warped in a very different way. But they're playing like all these blues licks, but then they're playing it as if they're doing it in a way that's very different, and it's just interesting. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I like thinking a lot about the connections between different kinds of music, especially historical connections between different kinds of music. Historical connections between different kinds of music give the music that we know now a different meaning. Like if you can hear where it comes from, if you understand the lineage, you can appreciate what we have now that much more, and that's so exciting. And so that was one of the things I was influenced a lot, and especially in a lot of my videos, I like making connections and references between different kinds of music.
Do you think that the music you make now, when it's heard in places where maybe it's further in the future or in just a different culture, somewhere where those connections really are a mystery, do you think that your music will fundamentally sound different to people who don't know you or your influences?
Well, yeah, because we put whatever our own cultural connotation and our own understanding. I think there's a term called enculturation, which is the idea that very young, very early age, we are encultured to whatever the sounds are in our particular culture. So like Western music, we have a very particular sonic palette, and it's different depending on where you are. So in the future, we have no idea what music is going to sound like, but the music that we're making now definitely will have a different... People understand the music that we're making now in a very different way in the future. For example, like, think about how we listen to classical music nowadays, or at least the majority of majority of people, like, they tune into the classical music station for something to relax to. Like, nobody like listened to classical music at the time, especially like late 1700s, to relax to it. It was not something that was designed to be relaxed to.
Was it more for worship and catharsis? Or?
Well, it was the whole gamut of human emotions. Maybe relaxation was part of it, of course, but like the whole gamut of human emotions was contained in that. But now we've sort of turned classical music, in terms of that light stuff, into this thing that you put on the radio when you're driving. It's a very different understanding of the music.
Yeah, and also you're cutting out a small amount of music from a period of hundreds and hundreds of years,
right?
To call like classical music,
Exactly, and there's the whole things like classical music, Western art music, whatever. I mean, like when people call it the classical music station, it's all Mozart and Vivaldi all the time.
On the note of classical music and like how ambiguous of a term that is, there's this album that came out this year where one of the pieces on it was a piece by Marcos Balter. He's this really great composer. He's alive. He's like a composer now, and he's this great composer. Yeah, he's amazing, and he writes. I guess it would be called classical music, but it's new and exciting, and it's now, but it's like composed music. It's a guy with scores, but I don't know why it would be called classical, but it kind of is. And he wrote a piece for the band Deerhoof.
Oh, cool!
Which is so cool because that really changes to me what music is when you have a composer from outside of this rock band writing a piece for a rock band. Now the rock band's the ensemble. Like all the terminology suddenly changes, and I think
that's awesome.
I think most people value rock music and hip hop and all the music that you consider popular music. I mean, most people value it, but there is still like some snobbishness about like, well, there's the higher music like classical music and.
Yeah, well, I'm not even sure. I mean, when you say most people, I mean most people of our generation, most people our age and younger.
Most people I know.
Most people but at the same time, like there is quite a large population out there that doesn't necessarily, even like rock and hip hop, like that still have a upturned nose towards it, which is exciting too. Like that's so cool that like he wrote for Deerhoof.
I mean, that really like changes what Deerhoof is to me. I mean, even though I'm aware of this like bias coming from the label classical, like when a composer like that decides to pair up with a band like Deerhoof, it makes me feel like not only is Deerhoof like amazing music, but they're also musically literate.
Right.
That's a ridiculous thought, because you could have listened to Deerhoof without knowing that and see exactly why they're a great band to write for, because they have a unique sound palette and they're obviously amazing musicians. You don't have to call it classical for that to be true, but it's still a bias that's like in in my brain.